Welcome to Coffee with Chaos. My name is James. Behind me, we've got Chaos. And here is my tea tonight. I didn't feel like making a pot of coffee. I just realized about 10 minutes ago that I didn't have any coffee already because somebody drank it this morning. All of it. So, yeah. So I'm going to have tea tonight, which is fine. This is Texas. It's hot. You know, tea is fine. It changes the dynamic a little bit, but not much. And I guess I could say beer, but I don't drink. You know, I don't drink alcohol. Haven't since 1986, I think. 1986. So it's been a while. For the last couple of months, or a month at least, maybe a little more than a month and a half, I've been showing comics from my collection. It started off with me talking about First Comics. And then I showed my PC Comics collection and my Atlas comic collection, my Tarzan comics, in 2 episodes, because there was a lot of them. And I got to wondering, does that make anybody change the way they think about collecting? A lot of modern collectors are key collectors. All they want is those key comics that are worth big money and they're going to make a fortune. But the bottom line is, it's a crapshoot. Okay, you bought this key comic for $100. Now you go check and it's worth 20 or 30. Oops. What happened? Comics, like any collectible, is not a guarantee. Just like the stock market is not a guarantee. You want to try to buy low. If you're going to try to make money, you have to buy low, sell high. A lot of stuff that you buy low is low because it's not that good. It's not really worth money. I ran into that a bunch of times in the 90s before I opened my store when I was buying from another shop, where I go in and pick up my Superman comics and my Batman comics and my Wonder Woman comics, you know, DC stuff. And they look at, you know, and other people would be in there and go, man, that stuff's not worth anything. And I looked at them and I said, yeah, but I like it. Yeah, but if you want value, you got to buy this X-Men or you got to buy this Spider-Man #1. You know, it's like $40. And I looked at them and I said, yeah, I'll wait 10 years and pay $5 for it, which I did. And then I turned around and sold it for not much more. You got to have Spawn #1 because it's going to be worth a fortune. Yeah, the most it was ever worth in the 90s was about $20. And if you look hard enough, you can probably still find a copy for around $20. Didn't see any big increase in value there. So when I started putting together the show a month and a half or 2 months ago or whatever it was, I started thinking about that. I need to show people other ways of collecting. It's not just about those key issues. Now, tonight I will be showing you at least one key issue, maybe a couple. That's just because that just happens to be, they just happen to be there. I'm going to explain why I started collecting not comic books, but Marvel comic books in 1970. Actually, it was around May of 1970. And I know that because I know when the comics were released that I'm going to show you, which were 2 of the first Marvel comics I ever bought. One of them actually is a copy of the first Marvel comic I ever purchased. And the other 2 that I'm going to show you are ones that I picked up that year for whatever reason, and I'll explain my reason. But my point is, I bought them because they looked good, not to make money. Now, the one, I bought a bunch of one of them, and I did make money. But that's a whole other story. I'm not going to get into it. But they introduced me to some artists that I was not familiar with and that I really liked. And that's what caused me to start, buying more Marvel comics. I still bought the DC stuff because here I'm talking like, 15 to 20 cents a piece. I could afford to buy them. Yeah, I could buy, for what I earned in 2 hours during the course of a week, I could buy 20, 25 comic books. And it wasn't that I was making a lot of money, $3, $4 an hour, I think is what I was getting. But when you got comics that are selling for 15 to 20 cents, maybe 25 cents, you can buy quite a few for $3 or $4. Unlike now, where if you've got an average wage job for the low end, you might be making $7 to $10 an hour. Yeah, so it costs you an hour of work to buy one comic. Value really isn't there. Something happened that shouldn't have. So that's kind of what I'm going to talk about. But I just wanted to point out that what I've been trying to do is introduce people to other comics, other things that you could collect. How you doing, Patrick? Always happy to see you. And in particular, other ways to collect. You don't have to just buy key issues. And if you start reading some of the comics that you buy, instead of just collecting them and having them in sealed plastic so that you can never get into it, you can never read it. And I know the argument, you can read it online. It's not the same. Trust me. I've tried to read comics online. I can't get past the first 1 or 2 pages. But I can sit down with a regular comic and read it straight through with no problem at all. Tactile feel, the smell. There's a whole thing about reading a comic book and the feel of the paper that you don't get with reading them online in digital form, or even the newer comics that they might have great stories and great art. They're so slick. It's almost like it's almost slimy to me, because I grew up reading comics that were printed on newsprint. So that to me is part of the experience of reading a comic. And that's kind of important too. Anyway, let's get on with this. That's kind of my introduction on this. And I'm going to continue to show collections that I have put together. Comics that I have gone through a long term. Yeah, no, you can't have it. You can't do it. If I tried to buy, my average comics that I would buy in the early 70s was about 25 comics per week. And that wasn't that much. I'm going to say 20 cents instead of 15, just because it's easier. So we've got, not including tax, $5. So yeah, 2 hours pay. To buy those same comic books now, or that same number now, I'm going to say $6 a piece. Is that fair? talking $150. To get the same experience, you'd have to have a job that paid you $75 an hour. Yeah, same pace you read them. But I can sit down and read 20 comics in a day if I'm up to it. I generally don't. I generally read 3 or 4 a day. So, yeah, that's where we're sitting at. Yes, this is live. I'm live. Every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. I am live. And I'm going to show you some comics live. I can't wait till the one I just bought comes in so I can show it to you. But it won't be here for a while yet. Average $4.99. Okay, that makes it a little less. Yeah, that takes it down to $125. So that's what, $62.50 an hour? More than my make, especially since I don't have a job. Which some of you go, what do you mean you don't have a job? Yeah, I'm retired. I live off of, among other things, what I sell on eBay and my Social Security, and hopefully within the next couple of months, my U.S. Postal retirement. It's taken me a while to finally get it all together and be able to send it in. Yeah, it's my memories, but it's live. So, yeah, there's no way I could do it. And I stopped going to comic stores because there was more comics that I wanted than what I could afford to buy. So I don't buy the new issue of Superman right away. I'll wait a few months and buy it online for $1 or $2, half price. It's terrible to be able to say that. And it's not that I don't want to support the publishers. It's that I want to support me. Be able to pay my bills before I pay someone else so they can pay their bills. So, yeah, let's get started on this. Pull out these comics here. And let's see, what are we going to do? Tell you what. Pressing matters. What I've got here is comics that I've pressed over the last week. This is not all of them I've pressed because I've started going to 4 a day instead of 3 a day. So I've stepped up my volume because I realized that I don't have to have a 40-hour cold press. I can do it with 30. So what we've got Richie Rich Gems #2 from 1974. I like reading Richie Rich. Doesn't mean I'm going to keep them, but I haven't decided to sell any. Here's one that Michael Mayron may recognize. This is Swamp Thing #59 from 1987. It turned out really nice. It was in decent shape before, but it had a couple of little dings in the cover. Yeah, I'm way past that age, Michael. Way past that age. And we've got American Flag #9 from 1984. These are great Bronze Age comics. Bronze/copper, right there on the cusp. Why people don't buy them and why they are such low value, I have no idea. Oh no, I read Casper also, and Sad Sack, and just I read comics. I don't care what it is. Uh, Elric #1. I offered up this one for sale not long ago and got no buyers. It's from 1983. So this is the first PC Elric comic. Uh, Classics Illustrated Junior 536-576 from 1967. This is a reissue. This is not the original, but turned out decent. It's got a lot of brown on the edges. Now, I took one of these apart and tried to get rid of that brown. It just won't come off, or not in the ways that I have tried. There's a Cerebus #33 from 1981. Now, I did finally get around to taking the cover off of a Cerebus comic and cleaning the cover and trying to get some of the stain out. That was moderately successful, and I don't know if it's in this batch or not. If it isn't in this one, it'll be in the next one for sure. And we have another copy of PC Vanguard Illustrated #1 from 1983. I've got like 3 or 4, maybe 5 of these running around. It's a great cover. I just have a lot of them. Sometimes when I'm collecting comics, Kenneth, glad to see you. Sometimes when I'm buying or trying to complete a collection, I'll buy a lot of 8 or 9 comics just to get one. And then I'll offer the others up for sale. I do that because that's the only way I can get that one. This is Archie's Girls, Betty and Veronica, #188 from 1971. This is another one. This is one of my guilty pleasures. I like Archie comics. Never read them as a kid. I think I got this one from Michael Mayrand also. Space Family Robinson, Lost in Space from 1976. This is #59. Yes, #59. And this is a reprint of one of the earlier ones from Gold Key. Next we have Creatures on the Loose, #28, Bangor from 1974. Why is that? Because you like Betty and Veronica? Remember, Archie Comics published Red Circle, which includes The Shield and Jaguar and a bunch of others like that. So there's some good stuff out there by Archie also. Here's Richie Rich Profits, #14 from 1974. Now you notice all of these I've taped the backs of all of these, except this next one. I didn't tape the back on. And you saw this one a couple of weeks ago, but I decided to go ahead and press it. This is Dell 4-color, #161. Tarzan and the Fires of Tour. And why didn't I? Well, because I wanted to take the back out of it, or the board out of it, to show you the back cover, which I didn't show you before. I had forgotten that the early Dell Tarzans had an illustration on the back. Yeah, but even in the 60s, they did The Shield came back in the 60s, along with some of the other characters. So, but they put it under a different title. They put it under Red Circle. There's Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen, number 104, G38. This is from 1967. I may feature this on a future video, future conservation video, as it does have a spine split and it's square bound. So that takes a special method of getting that off and fixing it up. Number 104, G38. And you know, DC Comics licensed those characters to do their. Hey, I have one right here. DC Comics licensed the Archie heroes for their Impact Comics label. Published by DC, licensed from Archie. And I have those there because I'm going to show those someday if I get them all. Gold Key did that. Dell didn't do it as much, but the late 40s Dell would have additional art on the back. Not all of them, but a lot of them. Here's American Flag number 10 from 1984. Another Classics Illustrated Junior. This one is number 537-538, which should tell you that this is a first print. Very happy to have that. First prints of these are notoriously hard to come by. And I forgot who did the cover on this one. I know L.B. Cole did some covers for Classics Illustrated Junior. He also did some covers for Classics Illustrated. Matter of fact, the first or one of the early Black Beauty covers was done by L.B. Cole. I might have it handy, but I can't get to it because I have something on top of the box that it's in. Here's a Cerebus 34. This is not the one that I took the cover off of. I think it was number 35 that I took the cover off of. And this is from 1982. Love Cerebus. It's a great comic. From PC, here is Silver Star, number 3 from 1983. Jack Kirby goodness there. From 1979, Ghostly Tales, number 139. It does have a Ditko story in it. Don't think Ditko did this cover, though. Yeah, I don't think that's a Ditko cover. It might be, but I don't think it is. Early 40s to 1970. I think they published their last one in 1970 because they reprinted continuously. And it went longer than that. It actually went longer than that in the UK. But they stopped publishing here in the late 70s. And then Marvel did it, first did it, did some, Marvel Comics did some, and then Dark Horse did some digests, I think it was. Here's Archie Comics number 433. Newsstand from 1995. So that makes this one a nice get. Sales boy, how you doing? Hey, if you didn't get a chance to watch his video, go watch it. He dropped the video today. Interesting story about that. When I went to the store by myself, I would buy the superhero comics. If I wanted a comic book and I was with my mom, I would pick out one of the Classics Illustrated. And that's how I did that. Uh, and that's part of the reasons why I love Classics Illustrated, because of the connection between me and my mother, which unfortunately she passed away a while back. It's been a while. It's been probably 8 or 9 years. Here's another one. This is a Magnus Robot Fighter 4000 VD from 1974. Again, it's a reprint, number 38. And I saved the best for last. From 1938, but it's still golden age because it was published after Action Comics #1, published the same year, but after. We have Ace Comics #18, featuring Jungle Jim, Ripley's Believe It or Not, and of course the Cats and Jammer Kids, or the Captain and the Kids, however you want to say it. And this one really turned out nice. I have another Ace comic, but it has a split all the way down the spine, and I haven't decided if that's one that I'm going to fix on camera or if I'm just going to do it and show it once it's finished. That's the comics I pressed, and that's that. So let's get back to my story. And the story is, how did I start collecting Marvel comics? Well, in 1970, I've said many times I never really saw Marvel comics before 1970. I was in high school, and it was towards the end of the year. It was May, and I told my mom, because I always told her that I was going to be late, that I was going to catch the late bus because I wanted to go to the store and get a couple of comic books. And she said that's because she knew I was starting to collect them again. I collected them as a young child, and she knew I was starting to get into it a little more seriously. And I couldn't relate to stamps and coins. I tried those. They just didn't do anything for me. So a buddy of mine who was also collecting comics at the time convinced me to give Marvel a try. So we went to the drugstore, and I saw this. Now, it's not this exact same one, but this was the issue I saw. Okay, Daredevil number 66, cover date July 1970, so it was out in May. And I thought, that cover is so cool. Had no idea who the artist was. As it turns out, it was Marie Severin. And then I bought another one that I thought had a cool cover. And that was this one, Tower of Shadows, number 6. Now you know why I collect Creatures on the Loose. So these were two of the first Marvel comics I ever bought. I bought some others, but I can't remember what they were. But I do remember these two because the covers were so cool. Turns out they're both done by Marie Severin. This one, we'll talk about this one for a minute. The artwork on the inside blew me away. And I was immediately hooked and started collecting Daredevil, trying to buy back issues. And I did. I got all of the back issues. Matter of fact, at one point I had like Daredevil 1 to 150, and then I sold them, all of them. But The artist was Gene Colan. Had no idea who he was. Never heard of him. But I liked his art a lot. So I was hooked. I was going to buy that one. This one, Marie Severin cover, like I said. The first story was Steve Ditko. Now, I was familiar with Steve Ditko because Ditko occasionally did stuff for DC, and he did stuff for Charlton, and I was a reader of that stuff. So yeah, Man in the Rat Hole by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. And I liked it. It was good. And that, of course, is the cover story. The second story was another artist that I was familiar with, the Ghost Beast, Wally Wood, story and art. And I knew who Wally Wood was. And of course, who didn't know who Wally Wood was back in the 70s? So, yeah, sold on that. Had another story with Tom Sutton art called Contact. Pretty good. Art was okay. I like Tom Sutton. He's all right. Never heard of him, though. And the last story was by Steve Skeets and Gene Colan. Same guy that did the Daredevil. Boom. Again, artwork blew me away. And that was the Scream from Beyond. Great stuff. Really liked it. And I bought comics up until then. But then a comic came out in, let's see, around August. And I went, oh yeah, I'm buying that. Didn't have to know anything about it. And in fact, all I saw was the trade dress, and he went, I'm buying that because I was a fan of the original author. And that comic was this. And I bought I bought a bunch of these. I pretty much wiped out the stores on these in my local area. And I later sold them at a profit. Big profit. Because as you can see, I only paid 15 cents a piece for them. But Barry Smith and then John Buscema later on, yeah, I was hooked. Galco is no longer with me. I don't know what happened to him. He was going outside periodically, and he just never came back. I don't know if he's alive or dead or what. So, yeah. But I still honor his memory by having him at the end of all my videos. So that's these are basically what got me started with Marvel Comics. And of course, I still think Gene Colan's one of the best artists that's ever been around. Which brings me to the collection that I'm going to highlight today. Now, I apologize in advance because there's one of them I can't find. No, I have it. I remember buying it. I have a receipt for buying it, but I can't find it. It's somewhere in 25,000 comic books. I'm not going to look for it. I'll find it eventually. But that's what we're going to get into today. Is a collection. And of course, Gene Colan, it's got to, and me being a big Daredevil fan, got to be Daredevil, right? No. This first cover, everybody will recognize. Tomb of Dracula, #1 from 1972. Neil Adams did the cover. Not his best work, but it is Neil Adams. Yeah, I think I paid $75 for that one, something like that. The guy had it at a higher price than that, but I just didn't want to pay that much for it. Next up, we have Tomb of Dracula #2. I can't read my writing. I think the artist signed it JS, and I can't remember who did it. John something. It wasn't Severin. Yeah, I can't remember. #3. This one was done by Gil Kane, and Maurice Severin fixed the face on Dracula. And we have #4, another Neil Adams cover. Yeah. Morbius, I think that was ASM 101, but I'm pretty sure it was a Gil Kane cover. Thank you. You're going to see a lot of them. Yep. There's #5, and this one was by, I don't have this one written down who did it. Oh yeah, I did. It's Gil Kane. That's another Gil Kane cover. And another Neil Adams cover. #7. Larry Lieber did the cover on this one. Or at least that's who got credit for it. And #8, a Rich Buckler cover. But all the interior art is Gene Colan. Here's #9. Gil Kane again. And the one I can't find is #10. And I've shown it on my channel before, but I can't find it. I know I've got it. I've got a receipt for it. I have no idea where it is. There's #11. #11 was done by Frank Bruner. And #12, also done by Frank Bruner. #13, Gil Kane. And Gil Kane did 13 to 18. Actually, 13 to 20, I think. #14. Yes, he was. Yes, Larry Lieber was Stan Lee's brother. Here's number 15. And number 16. Number 17. And number 18. Yep. Yep. Yeah, we'll get to those. Now I'm going to destroy. I'm just going to destroy everybody. Most of these comics I bought in the early 90s. And I bought them from quarter boxes because they weren't worth anything. So I was paying, and what they were doing is it'd be 25 cents a piece, 5 for $1. So most of these I only paid 20 cents for. In the 90s. Here's number 19. And number 20. Number 21. And number 22. Number 23. And number 24. Number 25. And number 26. Yeah, I paid less than cover price for these in the 90s. There are some exceptions, but most of them I paid, I think the most I paid for all but like the number 10 and the number 4 and the number 50. I think I paid anywhere from 20 to 30 cents a piece for. Number 27. And number 28. Yeah. Oh, look, the DC War stuff is amazing. I love it. I've always liked that. Uh, our Army at War, our fighting forces. I'll show those someday. Here's number 29 and number 30. Another Blade cover appearance there. Number 31 and 32. 33 and 34. 35 and 36. 37 and 38. Number 39. And number 40. That I did not know. I'm glad. Why are you dreaming when you're not sleeping, sales boy? Because there's an artist on one of these covers, and it's one of those artists that when I get their artwork or when I get their comic, I do not sell it. Unless I have multiples of it, then I might. 41. And 42. And this one, I believe, is the first, number 42. I think that was the first one that Gene Colan actually did the cover art for. Now for one of the greatest artists of all time. Number 43, Bernie Wrightson did the cover. I don't sell Bernie Wrightson comics unless I have multiple copies. And this one is just gorgeous. And 44, and that's another Gene Colan cover. Here's number 45 and 46. '47 and 48. All of these are Gene Colan. '49 and 50. They started getting desperate for stories because, you know, Silver Surfer, they didn't belong in the Tomb of Dracula. Number 51 and 52. And you might notice most of these are pretty high grade, and all of them are newsstand. 53 and 54. Yeah, this one I had to pay like $5 for back in the 90s. There's 55 and 56. And most of these you can still find at a reasonable price. There are a few of them that are a little bit pricey, a little bit expensive, like number 10. But if you look around, you can find them at a good price. Yes, that is the same Bernie Wrightson. But before he did Swamp Thing, he did a lot of DC horror stuff. He's just the best. Yeah, but he worked for Marvel also. He did work for Marvel also. There's number 57. And 58. 59 and 60. But wait, there's more. $61 and $62. And like I said, most of these you can still pick up pretty cheap. I mean, under the price of a new comic for sure. And a whole lot better in general. Number 63 from 1977. So we're still Bronze Age. It's all Bronze Age goodness. Number 64. $65 and $66. $67, $68, $69, and the last issue, number 70, which is not newsstand, unfortunately. Yeah, I know. I know you said you bought it, but then I might buy one anyway just because. Why not? Yep. Oh, and then there's this one. Because why not? It's a reprint of one of these. So I can't find my number 10, but I know I have it because I remember pressing it. I used my old press, and that's when my old press died, and cooked it. It didn't damage the comic bad, but I do need to disassemble it and soak the pages. And it scorched it, but it's still readable. So yeah, that's probably why I can't find it, because it's in a box that I plan on working on eventually. So, what else is in this box? Do I have anything else good in this box? Not really. It's Thunderbolt 0. Thunderstrike number 2. That's not worth anything. I need to collect this someday. Time Spirits. I've always wanted to collect that. I've never gotten around to it. There's a couple of Tomb of Darkness. Low grade. Anything else good in there? There's a 2001: A Space Odyssey number 4. Oh, and a number 5. Couple of westerns. Two Gun Kids, 78, 93, and 110. Gee, think they were doing reprints? So, yeah. Nothing else of any consequence in there. I do have a temperature gun. I would use that to set the temperature of my that old press I had. Unfortunately, what happened was one of the wires shorted out, and when it shorted out, it sent the temperature through the roof. So instead of 170, 180 degrees, it was like 250, 300. If I hadn't gotten it out there pretty quick, I probably would have had a fire on my hands. So, yeah, that was very unfortunate. But I still have the comic somewhere. I just don't know where it is. I'll find it eventually. And next week I'm gonna show you something that I've been wanting for a very, very long time. It's been on my want list probably since 1970, 1968, 1969. It's been on my want list that long. And I finally got a copy, but I have to wait for it to show up. Yeah. That's why I got away from that type. I still have that old press, and I use it as a cold press. I may rewire it at some point. I don't know. If I do, I'm going to make sure I have a temperature gauge. It's just one of those things I need to do some more. Yeah, it would have hit there, I'm sure, because it was getting really hot. So yeah, Gene Colan had finished this collection last year, I think, or maybe the year before. I don't remember which. Very happy that I have it now. I just have to find number 10 so I can sit down and read them from number 1 all the way through number 70. And I do have some of the Tomb of Dracula that were printed in the 90s, but I'm not sure where those are either. And of course, Gene Colan did those as well. Yeah, I have 3 presses now. I only use one of them. One of them has a burned out component, so it doesn't work at all. But I have a neighbor that knows about electronics, and he's going to take a look at it after he gets his house built. They're living in a trailer right now, but after he gets his house built and gets his electronics lab set back up, he said, when that happens, for me to bring it over and he'll fix it for me. So. I'll tell you what, that's just, I was devastated for you when I saw that cover for that Transformer, because you did a lot of work for that. But you know what? That's why I use paper towels to soak up the water, and then I use those Teflon sheets. I'm not a fan about putting paper against the comics, with the exception of when I'm doing. There are certain types of paper that those inks will stick to. Not much you can do about it. And one of them is the type of paper you use. As a consequence, I don't like using them for drying. I would rather take, put 2 paper towels, a Teflon sheet, 2 paper towels, another page, 2 paper towels, Teflon sheet, two more paper towels, another page like that. I've done it like that. Generally, though, I don't use my heat press for drying comics. I just use paper towels in my book press and go that way. Yeah, 3 hours is good. And then you need to change the paper towels for another 2 or 3 hours. Here in Texas, 6 or 7 at this time of the year, open the window to the back room, 6 or 7 hours, and it's dry completely, 100%. Even under the press with the paper towel, it doesn't matter. It's dry because it's that hot sometimes. And sometimes it's real humid, so I don't need to steam the comics. I don't always need to steam the comics before I put them in a hot press. I usually do anyway, just to add a little more moisture to them. Yeah, there you go. And that's pretty much where I am with the Cisco Kid. Once I get it back together and finish it, probably won't do a video on Friday on the Cisco Kid. I'll do a video, but probably not on the Cisco Kid because I have more to do on it than what I can get done between now and tomorrow night. And of course, I upload at night because when I upload a video, I have no internet. It shuts me down. Yeah. Hey, well, that's good for you because you're the moist boy. Me, I'm just no fear. I have no fear. I Rainy comic. Yeah, I'll get another one. Oh, no fear. Why would I be afraid? When I first bought my earliest Superman, or one of my earliest Supermans, I first bought Superman 46, I think it was. My wife gave me $100 or $150, told me go buy a comic book. Literally, that's what she said. It was for my birthday. So I bought like Superman 46, and I only paid like $80 for it. This was back in the 90s. So I bought a whole bunch of other comic books too from the quarter bins, and brought the price of it down. All together with all of the comics I bought, I ended up spending an average. Now this is averaged out to include that Superman. The average came out to about 60 cents a book, including the Superman. That's how you make your comics cheaper. And so I was sitting at this table. I was there with a friend of mine, and he asked me to watch this table. And I said, sure. And I pulled the Superman out of the cupboard. And one guy looked over and said, what are you doing? I said, I'm going to read it. He went, no, you can't. That's golden age. You can't read that. I paid $80 for this damn thing. I'm going to read it. So no fear. I have no fear when it comes to my comics. And that's why I have some in slabs. Generally, the ones I have in slabs, with the exception of a couple, I have either already read it or I have a copy that is not slab. But I don't have many. I don't have very many slabs. I think I have one Jimmy Olsen that's in a slab, and a Wonder Woman annual that's in a slab. And those are just in slabs because I haven't gotten around to taking them out yet. When I get to my Jimmy Olsen's and going through and seeing what I need to finish that run, I'll take it out of the slab because I like my comics like this so that I can read them. And I believe the Tomb of Dracula might have been slabbed when I bought it. I don't remember. Now the comic I just bought is slab. I will be breaking it out of the slab when I'm ready to work on it because it does need some conservation. It has a spine split and it's filthy. It's so dirty. The back, which should be white, is almost black with dirt. So when it was sent in to be graded, they never bothered having it cleaned. So I'm appreciative of every comic book. I don't care. I like high grade comics. Don't get me wrong. I mean, high grade comics are, yeah, I like them because they look the way they should look. But a low grade comic, I'll take that. In fact, I don't know if I've shown this or not. Let me go see if I can find it real quick. No, I moved it to one of my DC comic boxes, but it's an early Atom. I think it was like the Atom #4, and it was coverless. But coverless doesn't bother me. I just go online, find a picture of the cover, print it out to the appropriate size, and put it in the bag with it. Then I have a cover. It's not the original, but because it's, I can tell that it's been printed, and it's, I know I need to replace it at some point. But yeah, uh, I like pretty much all the comics, uh, as long as they're complete. Now I've found a few recently that I'm going through and I'm doing a light cleaning so I can press them that have not been complete. And when I run into them, I'm just like, oh, you know, there's a piece cut out of it, or it's missing the back portion of it. And it's stuff I never noticed before because I for a while I was buying so many comics so fast that I didn't have time to go through it. I bought a whole box of low grade stuff, low grade uh, Silver Atomic and Golden Age, whole box of it. I didn't care, and a lot of it I need to work on. Uh, Two of them have mold on them. They're sitting in my freezer. They're gold keys, but they're gold keys I'd never seen before, and there were only two issues of them, and I have both issues. Now I will. I haven't gone through them yet. I've just noticed some mold on the cover, so I threw them in the freezer so the mold wouldn't do anything. It won't get any worse in the freezer, and then I'll put them in my ozone chamber, and then I'll wash them, and I'll disassemble them, mask and gloves, uh, and maybe I'll put on eye protection. I haven't decided yet. Aside from the real eye protection, not my glasses, and disassemble them and wash them in vinegar. When I say wash them in vinegar, I'm not talking straight vinegar. I'm talking about like a quarter cup of vinegar to a gallon of water. Yeah. So the normally vinegar that's already cut, I cut down even further to wash. And that kills the mold. I mean, the mold is dead at that point. And then I can wash it with soap and get the mold and get the vinegar out, and then do a deacidification with calcium hydroxide, and that stops the acidity of the vinegar. Yeah, it's not a problem, but that is, and the spots that were black turn brown. They don't come out. But I've been thinking about putting them under blue light and seeing if I can get them to come out that way. Not a huge fan of blue light. It's too close to ultraviolet for me to be happy with it. And we still don't know the long-term effects. Blue light is something that's reasonably recent. We're talking the last 10 years. So we don't really know what the long-term effect is. I've got comics that had mold on them that I washed back in the 90s with a vinegar water solution. And at the time I used ammonia to stop the acid, because ammonia, of course, it's very alkaline. And you want to use distilled water if you use ammonia. So that would stop the acidity of it, and those comics are fine. There's nothing wrong with, even today. If I can find one that I've had since the 90s that I did that with, I'll show it to you. But there's no problem with it at all. Have a little bit of brown spots to it. That it doesn't look like mold anymore. It looks like it has a really bad case of foxing. All kinds of things you can do with conservation, and it's expanded so much from what it was when I first started dabbling with it. And I remember using school paste, mix it with a little bit of water, and use a little piece of paper, little tiny piece of paper, and doing tear seals with school paste and paper. And the reason I used the school paste is if I got it wet, the paper would come right off. So even though I didn't know at the time that the school paste was good for conservation, I was doing it. And the school paste you used to get, it was wheat paste, but you can't buy it anymore. They don't sell it anymore, probably because kids are eating it. And it wouldn't hurt the kids because it was just wheat paste, So that's one of those things that I didn't know. My first introduction to using parchment paper to protect a comic from the heat. I was using a towel, and it's in the kitchen. Had a towel on the kitchen table. Had my mom's iron out, and another towel, and the comic book in between the two towels, and I'm ironing away. She thought it was great. I was ironing her towels. No, I was ironing a comic book. And when she looked at it, and she pulled out a roll of parchment paper that she used for cookies, pulled off a piece, said, "Put this on your comic and then do it." I said, "Yeah, okay, I'll put that in between the towels." She said, "No, you don't need the towel. Just put that on there and then iron it." Not the nori paste. The nori paste is rice paste. I guess you could, but I wouldn't. I'm talking about, In the 60s, as a young boy, I'd have a comic book that was ripped. So I put some paste on it, some of my school paste on it, that I thinned a little bit with water because I thought it was too thick. And then put a piece of school paper on that and fix the rip. I didn't know I was doing the right thing. I would have used rubber cement, but my dad wouldn't let me near his rubber cement. The things I used to do as a kid. And of course, I went through, I remember reading in a Marvel comic in a letters page, and I wish I knew what comic it was in. I'm pretty sure it was published in the 60s, where Roy Thomas, I think it was, answered a letter stating that if you want to protect your spine from splitting or coming off the staple, put tape on it. And that's probably why you see so many Marvel comics with tape on the spine that don't have spine splits. And I think it was Roy Thomas that said that. I'm not going to swear that it was him, but I think that's who it was. And I really wish I could remember what comic it was in. But it was a letter to the editor, and they were asking how to prevent the spine from splitting or coming away from the comic. I said, tape it. Yeah, moms are great. They can fix anything. I learned how to fix books from my mom, and I learned how to fix cars from my dad, among other things. I learned a lot of stuff from my dad. Yeah, I didn't have tissue paper to use. Well, I guess I could have used toilet paper. Toilet tissue. Uh, my mom was an artist before she met my dad. She was actually published in a magazine, and I found an old Horse and Rider magazine from the early 50s, and it had this great cartoon in it that I thought was wonderful. So I showed it to my mom, and she went, "Oh, I remember that." And I went, "Oh, you had this magazine?" She went, "Yeah, but I remember that." I said, "Okay, because you had the magazine." She said, "No, I remember when I did it." And I said, "What?" And she went, "Just a minute." She went into her room, and she pulled out the original cartoon. So, yeah, unfortunately, I didn't get to keep that. I would have liked to have had that. It would have gone well with that magazine. But then she took the magazine away from me, said I didn't need to have it. I think she wanted it as proof that she was published. But she never went, after a while, she never went back to art. It was a real shame. It really did. I have a painting of hers somewhere around here. Where is it? Like I said, it's around here somewhere. That's a seascape that my mother did many, many years ago. I think she did it in the 60s. Absolutely, they were. Take it easy. We'll see you later. Post another video. I get a kick out of watching them. But you're right. They were somebody before they were moms and dads. But you never think about it that way. They're just mom and dad. I think that's going to be it for tonight. I showed you a bunch of stuff. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And if you're watching this on the replay, make sure you comment down below and do all the YouTube stuff. I enjoy doing these, especially now that I'm showing things, and maybe, just maybe, giving an idea to people of other things they can collect aside from just the key issues. You don't have to have just Tomb of Dracula number 10. You can have 1 through 70 and have a great story to read. So we'll see you later. Have yourself a great week. We'll see you next week. I'll be dropping a video of some sort on Friday. I don't think it'll be a Sissoko Kid, but it might be. You never know. In the meantime, have yourself a great night, and bye.